All right, so let's talk about the 90-day rule. The 90-day rule is essentially most agents understand intellectually, but emotionally they don't apply it. And the 90-day rule is really simple. It's what we do today that impacts us 90 days from now. And that it takes really 90 days of activity to generate the future 90 days of results. And so we've always said that, right? And so the thing is, as we're shooting this episode right now, what is it, October 16th? We're talking to a lot of the agents that we're coaching right now about how do we set up success for Q1 of 2025? Because here's what happens, right? Every single year, I mean, it just happens like clockwork, is agents take their foot off the gas come the holiday season. They kind of just, stop working. And then the new year comes around. They've got all this ambition and all these New Year's resolutions, et cetera, et cetera. And then we know by pure statistics, January and February are just like nothing, dog doo-doo. Everyone's freaking out every year. I mean, dude, I see this even like good friends of mine. And I have to talk people off the ledge. It's like, dude, just relax. And then what happens is come, March, April, May, they start to get back to work. And then they have this awesome summer, right? And then now they're rich. And now it's, real estate's the best. It's the best. It's this cycle that happens all the time. And so what is the point? The point is what you do in Q4 will show up as your Q1. And this is quarter to quarter to quarter to quarter. And it's a cycle. And the point of today's episode, Ben, is to help agents to break that cycle. If they want to stop shitting the bed in Q1, having a freak out in Q2, having an awesome Q3 to put their feet up in Q4, like if they want to stop doing that, and it just makes total sense, right? The roller coaster, it's like, okay, I'll succeed in the summer. Then I think I'm rich. So I stop working in Q4. And then I freak out, start working really hard in Q2, have another good Q3 just to take the holiday season off. What are your thoughts?
I think a lot of times when we start working with agents, we just want them to work for 12 months out of the year because they've been working for 6. So now we've got all this extra time. And if we really focus on the right things for 12 months, you get out of the cycle. Right. And it's a nasty cycle because when you get in it, you're scared, you want it fixed, you want results now. But if we can get ahead of that, it's painful. And we start to delay this gratification. That's all it is.
That's it. Yeah. And the thing is, it's sad, but people don't have obviously they don't have steady incomes. Realtors have cash spurts. They get these spurts of cash and it screws them up. And that's the reason why they don't have a consistent income month in and month out. Because it's this whole work really hard because I could feel I'm going broke. And then I get good results. And then I stop doing the thing when I was broke to, you know what I mean? That's like this foot on gas, off gas all the time. And if agents would just, to your point, just show up and work like everybody else on the planet, then they wouldn't have to experience this emotional financial roller coaster.
Let's talk about prospecting as an example. It's so funny that people when they start, all the results they're getting are from first contact, right? And they're really, sometimes it's hard, it's discouraging because you're not getting a lot of results. Once they get to that 90-day mark, they start getting all this business through follow-up, right? And all of a sudden, they're just so amped up. Man, I got this deal today. I'm so excited about this strategy. But in reality, they're getting a result from something they did 90 days ago. But in their head, they just can't separate it. It's like prospecting is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. It totally makes sense. It's a character trait of people that have a high income, which is the ability to roll up your sleeves and to do the work without seeing instant results, versus the number one character trait of low income producers, which is if I don't see immediate results, I'm going to chase the next shiny object and then I'm going to repeat.
Mm.
And so that's what we're talking about, because once the whole thing, the whole game of this business is once you successfully put your head down for 90 days and actually do the work, is to not stop once you're in momentum. That's the real issue. That's the real heart of this conversation is how do I stop? We know the 90-day cycle, but how do we stop being a victim of it?
Mm.
That's what I see. And it's like, work my ass off for 90 days, reap the reward. As I'm reaping the reward of that 90 days, I'm not doing the things I was doing 90 days prior. So then the next 90 days sucks. And then I work my ass off again. And that's how most agents live their entire career.
Mm. But Brandon, I'm way too busy. Like I can't. I just can't. I just get way too busy.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing is like, I always tell people that's the magic of momentum. The magic of momentum is it is so much easier to prospect and set appointments when you have an abundance of clients, an abundance of closings coming up, an abundance of a big, huge, fat pipeline, because you can actually be detached from the outcome.
Mm.
You can actually shoot sellers straight because you're not so desperate and needy for a deal. And what ends up happening is if you can ride the momentum, that's where that saying comes from, right? It's like the surfer on a wave. They're riding the momentum. That is a much easier way to build and to scale a business versus the start stop. It's the start stop that makes this business so draining.
Mm.
That's what I see.
Yeah. Just truly dedicating, committing to the process, right?
Yeah.
Every day, my job is to whatever it is, right? We're talking specifically about prospecting, is to prospect. Like practically, I'm going to prospect for 2 hours every single day, truly commit to it no matter what.
That's
And
right.
the results are the results.
That's so true. There's no better example of detaching from the outcome than this. It's I'm going to spend time in proactive lead generation for 2 to 3 hours a day, whether I am crushing it or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's my job. My job is lead generation. My job is to prospect. Everything else that happens is a byproduct of either doing or not doing my job. But that's my job. Whether I have 10 listings or 20 listings or 0 listings, it doesn't change the fact that there's still a job to be done. And that's the thing. Agents say, okay, I'm going to only prospect when I don't have anything going on. And you said it a few minutes ago. And then as soon as I have a bunch of clients, I'm going to actually stop doing the job. They forget that, like, well, they don't realize this in the moment. It's like, okay, you're going to pay the price for that in a few months. I know you're living high in the hog right now. I know you bought the new watch and you got the car lease. I get it. You had a couple closings. You're rich. You're going to be crying the blues asking for a commission advancement again in a few months, aren't you?
Yeah, practically, we got to think of like one is, you know, the actual sale, and then one is like the product delivery.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to get at this client, and then I'm gonna turn my store off, and I'm going to go like help set this person's. I just sold them a bookcase. I'm going to go help them set it up, and then tomorrow I'll come back and I'll open the store up and I'll try and get another client. But then I'm going to close for 2 more days because I got to help that person because he bought 2. And it's like, if we look at a real business, that's in my head, the reality of what we're doing is like physically turning our business off, the ability to market, create leads, make sales, because that's when it's happening.
Yeah. This reminds me of the video I did a few months ago, the Psychology of Money video on that book. I wonder if I could find that for the audience. No. I wonder if I can grab that. Don't know. I just rearranged the office, as you guys can, hopefully the diehard viewers have noticed my hard work behind me, changing all these bookshelves and whatever. But it's like just like that book, you know what I mean? It talks about not, you know, from an investment standpoint, and I made a whole video on it. Maybe I'll just link to that in the description. But the book talks about, Ben, I know you know this, so I'm saying this for the audience. This idea of the impact of consistency and how they talk about it, how they quantify it in the book, like around real facts, in that people that invest their money I think it was over a 30-year period of time that the majority of their gains were like on 4 or 5 days in a 20 or 30-year span. That if they hadn't been in the market in those just handful of days, that they would have lost, 50, 60% of their gains. Prospecting is the same way. Real estate's the same way. You don't know when you're going to hit. If you did, well, it's impossible to know. Like, that's why you have to be so consistent, because here's the thing. This came up in a coaching call. You were on it, I think. This came up the other day when the agent was like, oh, he was saying, well, there are certain days that I'll go back to back to back to back, not getting any leads. Am I doing anything wrong? And then we talked about how to actually establish a conversion ratio, an average conversion ratio. And you only get there because based on a consistent output of effort. In that, if you prospect for 30 days in a row, you might go 10 days in a row and not set an appointment. But on one day, you might set 4 appointments. And so the argument is, okay, well, had you missed that one day, just one day, you would have missed the entire upside of an entire month of effort. And that's what's going on. That's why agents always feel like they're just spinning their wheels, they tell me. Well, yeah, when you're just trying to, I talk about roulette a lot inside of our community. If you're trying to play, okay, it just went black 3 times. I know it's going to hit red this time. It could hit black, Ben. Again, I know you know this. It could hit black 15 times in a row, and it still doesn't change the probability of it hitting red 46.5% of the time.
Yeah.
It still doesn't change that. So that's the importance of consistency, which is what we're talking about. And so if you're only working, and it's not, I guess it would be 6 months out of the year, you're getting 50% of your potential. And I love that you said that a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So for the coin, like you flip a coin, it's 50-50, but it's isolated to the exact, like to that flip, it's isolated. So on average, over a long period of time, it ends up being 50-50. But this flip is 50. And if I hit tails, that's irrelevant. Now the new flip's 50. So I could hit tails again, right? So that's so why isn't it crazy? But that's why we've got to have enough data and do it for long enough. And this comparison to these stats, these averages, it can kind of suck us away. So it's like, hey, I need to put my head down. I need to focus for 90 days, 6 months, 12 months, and I'm going to commit to this thing regardless of the outcome, regardless of what happens, and just do it and trust. And I've prepared myself, so I have the time to do that. But just trust that in 12 months, I am in a great spot.
Well, you're assuming people are tracking their numbers. Yeah. But because that's the difference between an emotional business owner and a logic-based business owner. That's the difference between knowing and feeling. Well, I just don't feel like this is working, versus the person who tracks every day, who understands that I know that for every 74 people I talk to, I set a quality listing appointment. There's great power in knowing that information if you track based on the averages. But if you never track anything and you don't know what you don't know, and you're just like going into this thing blind, and you're just basing everything off of a feeling, well, no wonder you're inconsistent, because you have no track record, you have no evidence, you have no proof that the brain needs that it's actually making progress. That's why we really, really emphasize, as a tactical takeaway from this conversation, dude, if you track your numbers over the next 90 days, and you start to establish this information that you can actually do something about, you could turn an agent from this emotional wreck, this person that's just always up and down, and to someone that has great confidence, knowing, listen, I have evidence that based on this work, here are the results I'm going to get. So all I have to do is do the thing again. And they start to build a predictable business. But when an agent doesn't track anything, they track none of their efforts, they don't know where their business comes from, they don't know how they got the business, they don't know what activities or actions to duplicate the business, then they continue to ride the roller coaster.
And I would just argue, if that's what you focus on, nothing else matters. It will all fall into place, right? We get so worried about all these other things, but just once again, just doubling down on to really move your business forward, all we should be focusing on is the activity, the
That's
money
it.
generating activity, and everything else will take care of itself.